We're back from LA, and today I was meant to rip out this carpet and start throwing the frame up, but Yesco suggested that I run some room tests. So currently I've got a speaker in that corner, my measurement mic in the opposite corner, and we're going to excite all the room modes, because what we're going to do is we're going to see if this is what I've got on paper here. Okay, these are the room modes on paper. When I set up this room, 5.2 meters long, 3.56 wide, 2.74 high, I did that because the room modes had the most even spacing below 100 hertz. So there's no coincidental room modes in those really low sub frequencies that were going to cause me issues. Now, today we're going to run some tests because here's a whole theory. I need to confirm whether these axial modes on paper line up with the excited modes in this actual room. That's number one. Now, the reason why I was concerned about modes below 100 hertz is because they're very difficult to treat with porous absorption. On my plan, I've got 400 mil of porous absorption, which is a little bit over a foot, and with a low gas flow resistivity, and at about 100 hertz it completely starts to tail off in effectiveness. Now, the one thing I've got going in my favor is that these aren't brick walls there, okay? It's plasterboard, bit of insulation, so those low frequencies shouldn't get absorbed or reflect back in, they should sort of just leak out. That's the theory. I've got a window there, I've got two windows at the front, and I've got a door that's also got a window in it. So I'm hoping that helps leak some of those low frequencies out of the room. Now we're going to run 5 tests for consistency's sake, and we want to just see, does this map to the room modes that we've written down? That's really important. Now you're probably also asking why we're going to run with the corners. I'm going to go on this 3D chart here. The room modes always coincide with the boundaries of the room. Okay, so the highest peak, so the positive portion of the waveform, the negative pressure of the waveform, so the high and the low pressure of the waveform always coincide with the boundaries. So that 33 hertz across the length of the room happens at the boundary. The 48 happens along the boundary. But what's crazy is as you go to the, so you've got, those are your axial modes. As you go to your tangential modes, so tangential are between two surfaces, not one, they start to build up in the corners surfaces. So not the flat surfaces, the corner ones we can see there. Again, there we go, tangential, 101 in the top corner and bottom corner. And then the oblique ones, okay, where you're running off 3 surfaces, don't run along the edge, it goes to the tri-corner. So basically the whole idea of having a speaker in one tri-corner, so it's not sitting in the middle of the wall, it's sitting on the bottom right-hand corner, and a microphone in the bottom corner over there, is that we get both the high and low pressures of all axial, tangential, and oblique modes. So we're going to run some tests. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to be nice and quiet while I lie here on the floor. Let's go. So now we've got these up and they're really consistent, which is good. I just took 5 tests because I wanted it for consistency. Now you're going to see something really ugly now, but don't stress. This isn't what the final room is going to sound like from the listening position. You can see how much louder those frequencies are in the low end when you're in a corner. And we know that if you walk to the corner of a room, everything's excited there. So when I'm in my listening position, I'm not going to have 20 decibels extra of low end. It's just that when I have a speaker in one corner and a microphone in the opposite corner, it gets exciting. So that's what we've got. But we're just going to bring this scale back down to here and we're going to observe a few things. So this red one here, 34 hertz. So we're going to just move across here a little bit. So we're going to just track across. So at 32.6 hertz, okay, we have a mode, okay? And at 32.6 hertz on my calculator, 33.1 is a mode. So that's slightly low. It's not a big deal. My aim is just to observe that these modes are where they said they were going to be. The next axial mode is at 48.3, which is about here. We can see that trek down there. Okay, so that's where it should be, 48.3. The next one's 58.5. Okay, which is where it is. That's pretty close to the other one. That's a tangential mode between the X and the Y axis at 58.5, or this is 57-ish hertz. So That's got quite a bit of energy. What I'm making sure is that the energy between these are equal and even. Okay, nothing has built up because they're so close. So we can see below 200 hertz, there's about 5 decibel of play, 95 to 100, of energy that splays between the highest peak and the lowest peak. Now there's something here which Jesko said would happen, and it has happened, which I'm not awfully happy about. But again, this might change because these are exacerbated, these results, because they're in the corners. And that is, if we move over to here, is this Benello mode. So we've got one room mode in this first third of an octave, and in this second third of an octave, there's nothing there to support it. And if we look at our room, first third of an octave, second third of an octave, there's no room mode, so there's a little bit of a hole there. Now again, everything is exacerbated in this plot. Across time, we can also see it extends to almost about a second, 600 milliseconds is there, okay, down to about 50 hertz or 60 hertz at 600 milliseconds. And then on that really long one, it goes over a second. But again, that's because I got a speaker in the corner. There's no room treatment here at the moment. So what does this tell us? This tells us that with the exception, okay, whoopsie daisy, with the exception of this room mode between 35 to 40 to 45 hertz, everything supports each other pretty evenly. We can see that. Across here, on a bigger plot here, it's quite even. Now, obviously, when you scale it out, it's a little bit different, but here it's quite even. So loudest peak there, a little bit over 100, lowest one is 95, but that's where the drop is. So we've got good even distribution. The next test to do is to get these speakers up on the stand, and then once I get them on the stand, test my listening position. So now we're going to look at the listening position. Now I've went for 0.375 of the length of the room, and that is at 195 centimeters. So I'm going to mark that out, lift my speakers back up on their speaker stands, and again, run some tests with the microphone there to see how it distributes in the listening position. Is it an even distribution or not? Let's do that. We'll see if we can do that without too much mucking around. This is going to be fun. That chair out of the way. From here, there we go. Wait one moment. There we go. Beautiful. 195 is right there. All right. Let's get this going. Oh, and we're also going to go over the plans today. Oh, do not pull. Oof. Got a few cables coming out of this laptop. All right, so let's run these tests. Why is it just gets completely lost at that frequency? Wow, that's very interesting, isn't it? Why would it be getting completely dipped out at 78 hertz? That is so peculiar. 78, it's all tangential. That's really interesting. Okay. So that's 195 centimeters. Between the Y and the X, it's between the floor to ceiling and the left to right. So the only way to change that is to either bring the speakers up or down, because that's in a really weak position there. But then again, you'll have treatment at the top that can catch some of that energy. So this is all really interesting stuff. How much of that energy is it going to catch and stop from resonating with itself? Because that's between the floor and ceiling, that's an issue. Fuck, these speaker stands are over 100 pounds plus the speakers on them. They're fucking heavy. Okay, let's try that. Curious if that changes anything here. All right. Is that better? Who knows? So we started here with a big dip. It's like 100 hertz, that dip. No, but the dip was here. 82-ish, okay. What's it like now? It's more spread out. Let's put this to 124. So that's definitely better. Okay, so the speaker's out wider, definitely better. And that's all speaker boundary interference. So obviously, as I've brought them close, I've moved the speakers out further towards the boundaries, because that's where that's 78 hertz. When I went over here, where are we? That 79 hertz was a y-axis and a z-axis issue. So I couldn't bring the speakers all the way to the ceiling or to the floor, but I could get them out closer to the wall. So that definitely helped with bringing that tighter there. So we went from having that big drop to tightening it up. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring, this is risky, I'm going to bring the speakers closer in, so in towards me, because at the moment they're right up against the wall as far as I can, which is just makes it easier to manage interference, but I'm going to bring them closer to see if it tightens this up. So if I bring these in to there, okay, that's 1 foot in. So let's see. Let's go. I reckon I'm going to be in for a treat here. So now what I've done is we've brought the speakers off the x-axis a little bit to see if that helps anything. Nope, doing that fucking made it worse. So, oh, that's really quiet. Right at 80 hertz, it just dips straight down. Wow, okay, that's very interesting. And it is definitely between, stop. At 400, we can start seeing some effect down at that 80 hertz-ish, but at 240, I think we're going to be in trouble. And it's just above this listening position. I don't know that. Let's actually confirm something. I'm going to play that 70, what was the frequency? 78 hertz. And if it's only happening in this position, I'm going to move left to right and up and down. If it's happening on my up and down axis, I know that I can build a bulkhead slightly deeper above my listening position, which should help it. If I move left to right, it's going to be on the side walls that I'm going to have to deal with it. Oh, it is up and down. Oh, that's annoying. It's even all the way across there. If I go to the floor, oh, it's actually at the listening position. No way. So if I go forward, like here, when I'm here, I can hear that 78 hertz. When I'm here, that 0.375, it completely dips out. So I reckon I'm going to bring that listening position back to about here, because right there, it's just a hole. Whereas right in the middle, it's not. But I'm curious how because that's almost the middle of the room, something like 33 hertz. Ooh, okay. I'm going to take a measurement from this position. I'm going to take a measurement from that position, slightly back, because that 0.375, it's nulling there. I reckon there's somewhere between the middle of the room and that theoretical listening position where there's a good balance. So I'm going to go forward, back. When I went up, down, left, right, I didn't, it just stayed dead. In this plane, it stayed dead. Whereas when I went forward or back, it changed. Definitely not in the, so it's 220. That's 220. So that's about 30 centimeters more. So we've got a bit of a knock-on effect. It's definitely helping fill that up, which is good. Okay, but it's tilting. So what's happening is, so what's that frequency there? That's 66. Where does that lie on now? Okay. So that second axial mode at 66 is getting slightly more excited. It's not sustaining long, it's just getting slightly more excited. And that dip is coming up and that low end is flattening out. So that's a matter of from 87 to 90. That's 3 decibels. I'm going to go back 20 centimeters and see where we end up. No. So at 220, it's really good. At 220, it's actually quite nice. There, that second order axis gets too peaky. So 220, that could be the magic spot. Let's just refine this a little bit more and go to 210. I don't care about 240. I want to go to 210. Yeah, 210 is where you get good energy between that 34 hertz mode, and it balances nicely with that second order at the top, because there's only, so that's 1 decibel difference between that first and second, and this drop here is only 5 decibels. That trough here is a real issue, okay? Because that's, what is that? In frequency, that's about 10 decibel between, that's 16 decibels. So it's plus minus 8 decibel in the low end there without any treatment. Is that good? Absolutely not. It is not good, but this is not a treated room. So I'm thinking 210 centimeters X on the listening position and 240 centimeters YS. That's our golden child. So what we've got left is to look at these plans. So what we've got here is the original plan that Jesko put across, that I showed Jesko. And what we've changed is a few things here. The first thing, we're just going to go to room layout 5, is we're extending that ceiling. We're going from just having a ceiling over the listening position to having that ceiling baffled all the way out to the front. And the reason is because above the speakers we want to treat to minimize speaker boundary interference at the speaker position, and we want to manage that first reflection point and where I'm listening. So that's 240 high of insulation. How effective is that? Not super, but what I'm thinking of doing now after these tests is considering, before I start fixing all the fabric, is to drop down this section above my listening position. If I still have that hole across that up-down section, or a hole in that listening position, just to baffle out that listening position across the Y and the Z axis, so there's more absorption there, and that will definitely help it. So that's it for today. So basically, not next week, the week after, I'm going to rip out the carpet, rip out the skirting board, and start putting this frame up, which will be a lot of fun, because once the frame's up, I can start doing tests with insulation in the wall, but nothing fitted off, because once I start putting the fabric on, I can't rip the fabric off. Whereas if I have the insulation in the wall, guess what I can do? I can build out more frame or build bigger baffles here to actually have deeper trapping. So this will be interesting to see how this goes. I think this is actually a pretty good result. Time-wise, there is a lot of sustain in the low end, but there's good balance between each of the modes in the low frequency. The only thing I'm annoyed about is this little trough here, which we'll have to look at managing, but we'll work with that.